Alejandra Vallejo-Nágera is someone who was born and had to undergo emergency surgery. In that experience, she learned a lot. Something occurred that I believed until recently was due to anesthesia. And that detail, maybe it wasn't that, but what we will discuss.
Please explain what happened and when it occurred.
This occurred in a Francophone country, namely Luxembourg. Suddenly, I felt a pain that completely pierced my body. I was completely motionless. They had to perform an emergency intervention. It was specifically an ovarian torsion. They had to operate on me, always speaking in French in the operating room. I spoke French at that moment, and all of a sudden, I experienced something I can't define as before, during, or after, nor how long it lasted, where I viewed not precisely my body. I don't know how to put it. My awareness, so to speak, was completely convinced that I had positioned myself on what could be the ceiling of the operating room. I couldn't see the OR. I was looking upwards, down, but I heard. What I saw above was a mist. The term fog doesn't quite capture what I sensed. It was smoke, a sort of smoke, not overwhelming, not burdensome. It was a light haze, but it completely covered the scene to the extent that the physical ceiling, the ceiling of a space, was not there. It had vanished. And that smoke seemed to pull me upward. But it wasn't a pull like a vacuum cleaner. It was a gentle rise. And I felt like I was floating, so to speak. If I had a body, it would be horizontal. Was horizontal. I was looking parallel to the ground upwards. And I was there for a certain time without any awareness of, not without awareness, but without fear of where I was or what was happening. I felt perfectly peaceful and calm. And suddenly, I looked to the sides because until that moment, I had only been looking up or seeing only what was above. And to my left, there was a person I had never seen before. I didn't know him then, and I still don't. He was a man with dark, curly hair. He had a beard. I can't recall exactly what kind of clothing I wore. I had a body and I was dressed. It was white, but it could be similar to it wasn't a chilaba. I wore trousers and a white tunic. I was in exactly the same position as him. I glanced left. He looked at me without moving, and he said, "We are dead." I said, "Yes, I know already." Soon after, or just a few seconds later, if time exists in that realm, so then I felt I was sinking, which irritated me. I didn't want to go down. That someone was calling my name, it was very bothersome to me and quite annoying. And gradually, I became aware of where I was in the operating room and that the procedure was coming to an end. I was still in the OR at that moment, a hallucinatory state of the anesthesia. This happened more than 30 years ago. At that moment, and because it was an absolute emergency procedure, and I was not a regular patient, nor was I even a regular resident there, they just told me the operation was successful. but they didn't explain it. I doubt it was normal practice. I don't know. What's curious is that the individual or character I saw floating in the air spoke Spanish to me. And everything around me was in French. It was French speaking. And that's all. And I always thought it was, well, a hallucination due to the anesthesia. I know that some anesthetics given, maybe more back then than now, can indeed trigger hallucinations. But I can't recall what type of anesthesia they used on me because this happened too many years ago. It wasn't my usual clinic nor my regular doctor, and I've lost all memory of what transpired there.
Could you please tell us which country it was and the year you recall, Alejandra?
It was Luxembourg. And the year must have been, I don't remember very well, but it must have been around 1991 or 1992. I would say it was probably 91, yes, because I have the reference because my father died in 90 and my father was no longer alive. So yes, it must have been 90. Yeah, 91,
How
sorry.
old were you then about?
33 years.
Do you belong to any religion?
I practiced. I was brought up in the Catholic faith. Back then, I had many questions about my faith. I had pulled away quite a bit. I wasn't going to church. I wasn't practicing religion regularly, nor was I against it. But I hadn't really considered any major questions about it. Religious practice seemed ancestral to me, and, well, I wasn't praying at that time. But starting from that moment, the truth is, not because I felt something had taken place, I never considered it. And I still wonder if that was a near-death experience like we are analyzing. I don't know if it was, but it's true that two things changed. One, the firm conviction, absolutely, the certainty that something superior to us, a being benevolent, I would say sacred, guides us and is with us, and that alongside us we also have, messengers. I can't say if they are angels, but spirits that walk with us and will walk with us when we face the final journey. From then on, I have faith. I pray. I enjoy it. And I keep practicing, therefore, the Christian faith, the Catholic religion, because that's how I was brought up. I haven't thought about changing my religion, but I have looked at all of them briefly. And they are so alike that I will stay with the one I know and studied.
When do you realize what a near-death experience is and begin to question if that's what happened to you?
Well, the truth is, upon getting to know, or rather upon listening to Dr. Lujan Comas and Dr. Sansegara, I thought, wow, I'm not certain if that was what happened to me. I still have doubts, because I didn't see my life flash before me or see the light, nor did I experience a journey around the hospital, nor did my family appear, nor did I feel the slightest longing for the people left behind. At that time, I had 2 daughters who were still quite young. And, my rational side would have always told me, how could I leave these girls orphaned, right? None of that occurred to me, and I felt no fear. I was quite frustrated to come back.
Have you explored near-death experiences, the various phases, all the global research on it?
Not at all the worldwide literature. I have stayed, I want to say, through Dr. Lujan Comas and everything she shares and Dr. Sansegara. I had heard of NDEs, but I hadn't really studied the topic, not at all. But I'm not bothered by it either. It's something that, why should I read? Something I'm sure will be splendid when it happens. It will be great. It will be a state of tranquility and peace, of absence and no effort, of lightness. Perfect. So why would I read? I can't claim I've experienced it, but I feel like I have a little.
Do you feel you returned by your own will or because you were compelled to come back?
I didn't return by my own will because, as I mentioned, at that moment, I had no sense of attachment to those left behind. My husband, my children, my mother. No, that wasn't there at that moment. But I was certainly forced to come back. I was made to. And I felt that I was being made to come back. And I didn't want to. Now that I'm logical and alive, I think, how outrageous. I don't know if my daughters hear this or if my husband will think, but what a selfish person. You were there floating so content. Well, yes, I was floating. I was happy and wanted to keep ascending. What I am convinced of is, I am convinced that it will be wonderful. I am convinced of this. And when the actual final moment arrives, they can take away the dancing. I'll see for myself. It's that my awareness, I can't say it was my body. I didn't see, I knew I was in a, well, I knew it was me, but I couldn't see my body. What I know for sure is that I wanted to keep going up, that there was an inner force, more than external, inner, that was raising me up. Very slowly. I wished I could move quicker, but no, I was floating in the atmosphere.
At what stage in that process do you come across this other being, this other person you say you didn't know and have never seen again?
In terms of time, I have no idea. I don't know. I can't say if my experience lasted 2 seconds or a minute. I'm unable to describe or define it. I was there for a while, looking up, wanting to rise, noticing what was going on around, hearing the surgery below. And at one point, I decided to look to the sides. Probably, reason doesn't come into play here at all, but maybe to see if the fog was still on the sides or if I could move somewhere. I think something like that must have happened. The fact is, I don't recall looking to the right. I do remember looking to my left, and there was this figure. As I said, I didn't know him. I had never seen him. If I saw him now or had encountered him at any other time in my life, I would recognize him perfectly. And simply in Spanish, with all peace, tranquility, and naturalness, he said, "We're dead." And I remember responding to him, "I already know that. That's it." And from there, as time passed quickly, I assume, because I was thrilled and also with company, well, I already have. They started to bother me. I remember it as bothersome.
Was that communication telepathic or was it spoken, as you remember?
By voice? Yes. Now that you mention it, I think it was in voice. In any case, I interpreted it perfectly. I understood it. I heard it. And yes, I believe it was spoken. Because now I remember, and she opened her mouth. Yep.
With voice, what does Alejandra change? In the moment prior, when you say you were feeling very peaceful, to a moment when you begin to feel discomfort, why is that?
Because they pushed me down, or rather, they took me out of the haze. I was still with my eyes closed, but they started calling me in a way. They began to pronounce my name in French. Once again, we returned to French in a quite agitated manner. Everything was very anxious. My body began to hurt a lot. Sure, I had just been through surgery. The anesthesia was probably wearing off, and my body began to hurt immensely. I literally felt my body, which I had lost, in that different state of altered awareness.
One reason you might doubt if what you experienced was a hallucination or a near-death experience is that you didn't go through all the stages Bruce Grayson describes for an NDE. On the other hand, it is also shown in the literature that not all patients go through all the phases, and some patients experience them fully, while others only experience some phases. As a key figure in an experience, why do you think that is? Do you have any explanation?
I honestly have no explanation. Why do I think that occurs? Since I believed until recently that it was an anesthesia-induced hallucination, I haven't really thought about it. Why? Perhaps for someone, a spokesperson, or maybe to name you as a spokesperson, I don't know, to assist people in saying not to fear death. Yes, it's true, I remember my father had already passed away, because from that experience, and I'm reflecting on it now, I hadn't thought about it until now. I sensed he hadn't really gone. His body was gone. He wasn't there anymore. But he was, in what I had known as my father, a dear person, a loving figure. From that moment onward, not before, since he passed away, he was with me, placed in another place. I don't care anymore because he hasn't died. He's here. He's present. And I'm thinking now that this was a real change. I also don't know why this occurred to me. Maybe giving voice, or what Dr. Sansegara is doing, helps people who have lost dear ones to cope with loss in a much healthier way, with the conviction that what falls and is left behind is the suit we all wear, called the body, but that their spirit continues to be by our side. I am fully convinced of this because my dear ones who have passed away, I haven't felt the tiniest grief in the plan. Oh, not at all. Not at all. And more so. I'll say something that might be surprising. I don't care about dying. I'm actually wishing for it. Let's see. Wishing. No, I love life. But when the time comes, let's go. But more than happy because it goes up. I was going up and not down. I was going up. And it's a truly pleasant journey, honestly.
Did that experience alter your view of grief? Did you feel it differently before?
Previously, I experienced it differently because I felt the absence pain. I missed the person. It troubled me because my father passed away at 63. He was so young. And you ask, what is this? There are so many bad people around. And just when someone's so compassionate, so humanitarian, suddenly a rapid cancer takes them away. No. I didn't get it. But now I understand that nothing happens, that he is still here. And it doesn't matter that he left his body at 63, because his spirit, his presence, his signs, his protection, being a father, his guidance, toward what my kids, or I in particular, often ask for direction on where to go. What would you have done? Well, it accompanies me in such a way that I invite people to I get it. I understand the pain of loss, especially if it's a child, which is so against nature. But they are in a beautiful place. Sure, if I say it, who would accept that after losing a child? I don't prefer to lose a child. I'd rather go before, honestly, because I'm not sure I could handle that pain, even though I would know they are with me differently. Why does someone return? I'm not sure, I don't know. Yes, it's true that from that point on, I started to accompany palliative care. I have chosen things I didn't do previously. But I choose to support people who are right at the threshold, who are lonely, who lack family. And well, each companion will have different motivations. My only aim, or my main aim, is to help them go in peace without fear, because I have lost my fear personally. Meanwhile, hearing Dr. Sansegara, I think I get it, though I'm not sure if it's true, that when one comes back, the living dead I'm among, we return with something new that we didn't have before, apart from the loss, the fear of death. In my case, I would say that I don't know if it's because of experience and age, since it's been 30 years since that, but I have a lot more intuition. I didn't have it as much before. I was more connected to the earth. Everything had to be shown. No, now there's something that wham. There's a sixth sense that has been activated in me, which I didn't have before. But be careful, I insist. It may also be the years of experience that have helped it happen.
Do you see yourself as a very rational person?
I was quite rational. I've been very rational, but I'm less so now. Well, I think logic is important. I believe having information is essential for making decisions. But the spiritual aspect in my case has increased significantly, the sense of transcendence, the sense of values, the sense of doing good, the absolute conviction that above happiness or pleasure provided by certain situations, above all that, the true treasure lies in something I personally call peace.
Do you remember the first time you shared that experience with someone?
Well, it was very recent, honestly, just a little while ago. A friend, I'd say almost last year. Well, I had already done an interview with Dr. Comas for a health and wellness podcast we were running. And at that moment, I was still convinced that my experience was a result of the anesthesia. But after hearing her and since coincidences don't exist, coincidences arise, a friend tells me she just completed her advanced directive. And I ask her what that is, what a living will entails. She explains how we want to die so the family doesn't have to make that choice. And I say, what a coincidence that both things. Well, I'm going to make my living will right now. In the living will, there are many questions regarding how the patient chooses to die, whether they want to die at home or in the hospital. I chose to die wherever it may be. I don't mind dying, not at all. What's really complicated is living, which I enjoy. But it's exhausting. I indicated that for everyone, the sooner the better, and so forth. When I wrote that and sent it to my daughters, I said, I've signed all these things, just so you're aware. I said, I don't mind dying, but what are you saying? How morbid you are. You must be depressed, which I'm not, clearly. I say, no, I'm not depressed at all, but I'm starting to think that what happened to me, however brief and strange it was, because I didn't see my life go by, but I don't miss it at all. It might be. And so I have no fear of death at all. When someone tells me that their father, brother, or someone has passed away, I'm not going to offer my congratulations, but inside, I think how much better they are now. Yes, and especially if the lead up was a serious illness, degrading and painful. I'm convinced that rest is what it is for those who pass, but they don't leave fully.
What does your family say when you explain this, Alejandra?
They tell me I'm morbid and that I shouldn't talk to them about this, but there's the document. I've made my living will. I've provided it so they won't have to decide for me on how to revive me. Please don't bring me back. No. It's done, I guess. I mean, it's not just my opinion. I read it in Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's work, and my dad mentioned it too. That we die when we've learned what we were meant to learn and taught what we were meant to teach. Perhaps based on that, I think I might still have lessons to learn and share. The meaning of my life, I think about it now. I hadn't reflected on it before, but it has changed. It's also possible that 33 years have passed and experience is the mother of knowledge, but the meaning of my life has truly changed. I'm not interested in professional accomplishments at all. I enjoy working to share, to help others develop, but without any spotlight. I'm not interested in being the star at all. I only feel good when I transmit peace and when peace, security, and love arise around me. The rest, I'm not interested in anything. People on social media say you appear physically, but not often. I ask, why should I appear physically? If it's not about my goal, but the meaning, in other words, the direction I want my life to follow, herself, it must, the motivation and strength are marked. What propels my life from a certain point onward is to do good deeds.
Dr. Manuel Sansegarra states that a crucial aspect of happiness is the management of the ego. Does it change your ego?
Maybe not initially, but now completely. The ego only bothers me. It just makes me suffer. When I doubt my own worth, when I feel that others will judge or criticize me. I had or maintained it for a while, but I don't remember when the imposter syndrome ended, specifically because of my last name. They'll say it's because I'm someone's daughter. Oh, what do I know? I need to show that I deserve it as well, that I honor my family name. Oh, that's a thing of the past. To whoever I bring comfort. Any message I send is great. Those who don't want it are free. I really don't know my life's meaning. To surround myself solely and exclusively with good people, to be a good person. And if one day I realize I've done something, that it's the ego that does it, the desire to be the protagonist of something, to not lose something, I go back and I reflect. I ask, what will I lose if within me there's something, a treasure? And that's it. I need to nurture this and share it.
Have you experienced any phenomenon that can't be explained by scientific methods?
Very recently, for some time now, since I made my living will, and I understood that maybe, just maybe, it could be. Why not? That my experience wasn't just a side effect of anesthesia, but rather a near-death experience. After that, people come into my life, they emerge, they tell me if I notice numbers that repeat, or see butterflies in winter, or see those could be signals. I haven't seen butterflies in winter. Signs of numbers repeating non-stop. It's quite astonishing. Every time I look, for example, at the time, It's 11, 11, 22, 22, 31, 13, and I think, how wonderful. I'm very well accompanied. The spirits are with me. The spirits, honestly, I'm not crazy. I'm very rational and scientific, but I have that conviction. Well, 3 weekends ago, no more than that, I'm a hiker. I enjoy hiking. I was with my friends, and if they hear me, they know I'm being honest. Through a gorge on a narrow path, we could only go one at a time. In the front group, 2 of my friends were ahead and I was behind them. And very far back, because they were quite a bit behind, was the rest of the group. At one point, someone came up from behind and tapped me. And from behind, they said, "Alejandra, you dropped this from your bag." When I turned around, it was a woman, about 56 years old approximately. I insist my friends who were with me can confirm this. And she told me, "You dropped this." And with a smile that brightened the area, she handed me my ID and my credit card, which must have fallen from some pocket. And I was stunned. "Thank you so much, but what can I do for you after this?" And nothing. She turned around and went back. I was, of course, excited. Wow, what luck. My friends who were with me said, "Hey, if this person was going the opposite way from us and only one person can walk on this path, we didn't see her coming head on." I said, "She must have come from behind, walking toward us. She must have met her and then ran," I thought. She didn't seem tired or like she had been running. Then my friend said, "Well, let's see if the group behind encounters her head on." And when my friends come talking to each other one after another, I insist in a line, we ask them, "Hey, did you cross paths with a woman with such and such characteristics? Did you see her heading the other way?" And they said, "No, we didn't see anyone." No. I'll leave it at that. When I glanced at my phone for the time, it was 11:11. That's it. That's all I can share. Of course, my friends also said, "Wow." The first thing I thought was that she was a real person who had run a long way to locate me. Then, thinking back, she called my name from behind. She had my ID and saw my name, but I don't know if she recognized me from behind. Skepticism, I understand. It took me a long time to rewind it too.
Is it possible that person could go up or down somewhere other than that path?
It's tough because, yes, it's possible. Anything can happen. But to our right, there was a very steep mountain with no path, very, very steep. And to our left, there was a very steep descent and a river. Could she have come from above? I doubt she walked by the river, and she definitely didn't seem like she had walked along it. She appeared to have come from the path. But I insist, I can't certify 100% that it was someone special. If that person, if that lady, if that woman who knows my name because she gave me back my credit card and ID is listening, please step forward and say, no, that I am real, I haven't died yet. Well, let's clear up a doubt. Honestly, I was alone, which is strange, right? It can happen that someone is alone, but it was bad weather, I was alone. That's not typical for hiking. It's not usual, but that doesn't imply it's impossible. Almost anything is possible in this life, even that.
What do your friends say when this happens?
Well, my friends, the ones who were behind, said maybe we were talking and got distracted. But it was difficult since we literally had to get out of the way, press ourselves against the huge mountain next to us, and at no point did they remember doing that. They didn't remember crossing paths with anyone. The ones with me. One of them, and I'll tell her to listen to this to corroborate the story, said she had a similar experience in a car accident. And now, seeing this, she assured me, she was the one who said, I certify, that this figure is not of this world, so to speak. Because I still thought she was a wonderful lady who had run a long way to locate me. In other words, someone verified she had a similar experience in a traffic accident with her husband.
Did you explain earlier that during the experience you saw another being, another person you would recognize perfectly if you saw them again? Have you felt the urge to find them on the internet, for example?
I clearly remember her physical traits, even her voice. That's why now if I confirm she spoke to me in Spanish with a voice. But why would I look for her? I mean, no. Why would I? I have no interest. I have more important things to do. That being, either passed away at the same time as me, in which case I hope they found the light, or not, but that's it. I don't need it. And besides, I wouldn't know how to look for her, because usually if you search online, you look for a name, right? I don't know. I just don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I do know that the day I die, someone will come to accompany me, so I won't go alone, because one thing I struggle with is going places alone. It's difficult. I go to many places alone, but I always prefer company. It gives me much more peace and comfort, and I love to share. So I believe that God sends me someone to accompany me so that I can satisfy that need. I need to feel accompanied in every experience I go through.
Dr. Manuel Sansegarra explains that any fear is fear of death. Listening to you, it's obvious that you are not afraid of death. Are you afraid of other things?
In daily life, yes, I have a recurring nightmare because I get disoriented a lot, or I have something in my brain that doesn't understand maps very well. And I tend to dream that I lose my way, that I must get to a destination, an obligation, a job, and that I get lost. It's perhaps the most important fear I have. I have absolutely no fear of loneliness because I know I'm never alone. I mean, I'm not just talking about physical people who are with me, like family, friends, husband. No, I am not alone. And I can always seek support from these people, characters, spirits, beings from another realm who are with me to assist me be well. At the same time, I can now distinguish, which I didn't do at all before, because evil exists and can manifest in certain people. But I know I have this intuition. It serves not to disturb their lives, but to keep them from interfering in mine. No. And I have started to seriously limit all stimuli, visual or auditory, that unsettle me. Films, shows where there are killings, where people, instead of creating good, bring about death, suffering, despair, which certainly exists. I dedicate myself professionally to helping those in pain to suffer less, to find ways to alleviate that suffering in a non-pharmacological way. But evil, the desire to harm, to destroy others, exists and incarnates it manifests. That is, it exists in people. It affects certain individuals. My father would call it a mental illness, which these people probably sometimes suffer from. But I recognize that from a distance too, that person will not provide me with any peace or calm, nor will they let me do good, which is all I care about.
Do you believe in rebirth?
I believe in reincarnation from reflection, which some may share, or perhaps certain sectors of the church that already know me originate from their lists. I believe in rebirth for this reason, because often I think about why I was born into a wonderful family, in a wonderful country, in a wonderful city, that I've had the opportunity to learn, to grow, to love, to understand what it means to love and be loved, because I have been fortunate with such gifts. When just 4 neighborhoods back, or a few kilometers behind in Africa, there are people devastated with no chances for personal growth. Why? I've lived in Brazil, haven't I? So why does a person, a miracle, a baby, born in a slum, without a father, surrounded by drugs and misery, and I was born with these benefits? Sure, my reading of the Bible, the parable of the talents, leads me to say that if I was born with these gifts, with these talents, I must return it to society multiplied. And that's what I live for, right? I used to see the meaning of life that way, but I believe that's what moves my life. I have to give this back to society, strengthened, uplifted, and I will do everything in my power to achieve it. But why was I born with so many benefits? Why have I been given so many gifts instead of someone who deserves them too? Well, I think it's because my soul, because I truly believe in the soul, worked very well in previous situations. Sure, it did very well, and my responsibility is not to mess up its efforts, but instead, whoever comes after, to emerge with even more gifts than I possess, with fewer fears.
What's your day-to-day like?
My day-to-day, I lead a pretty organized life regarding sleep and eating routines, but I really like to work. I mean, working, sharing, teaching. I enjoy teaching, but from a place where I learn with my students. A family life, a cozy life. I love my home. I love being there. I cherish simple and natural activities. On weekends, I make it a point to go to the mountains to hike every weekend, either Saturday or Sunday, near my city. After that, I head home to dine and sleep.
Sometimes we mention to the doctor that in the future, what we're discussing will be explained in schools and universities. Do you think that will happen?
I hope so, because it would really assist in helping people look for what connects us instead of what separates us. Hopefully, so that there is less ego. I hope that I wish it's good, that we feel that sacred part we carry inside and that we continuously turn our backs on. And also that life, it was created by someone greater than us, who is love, and that we bring it along. Just let it show.
Do you want to share something more than haven't you said?
Well, perhaps to all the people who are going through a mourning, who are turning around, for that amazing person they have spent time with and shared experiences. Wonderful experiences are no longer here. A father, a mother, a couple. Kids seem harder. That they get what I'm saying. May they have confidence that in any case it will continue with them, hiding away in a small nook of their hearts. But once they are granted a voice and room to speak, they will accompany them as soon as they are called by their name. They will come. Let them not fear death. No, do not fear death. It's not something to desire. Most importantly, one should not wish for it simply because they are suffering too much. Rather, that at the moment it occurs, it's a big trip.
One last question. Why do we live? What are we doing here?
I'm going to be a bit rational now, but I am convinced of this. I believe we come to experience in this realm, I'll call it that, because I've experienced another. In this realm, we have come to experience the opposite of what we are. A newborn, as I've seen, is pure love, shining love. They have no body, no things, no material items. They simply have a fragile body. But a baby is a shining light of love and tenderness everywhere. If we were like that, if we were born that way, but life tells us that we must strengthen that body and enhance our intelligence and such, because that is life. All of this distances us from the point we were born with. It's essential to experience it, yet it's fascinating to remember how we were born, the love we radiated, and how little we had. And during our lives, no matter how long they are, we should let go of what the ego wants, which is to possess, not lose, to be more important than anyone else. To gradually ease that grip, to regain ourselves when the end arrives. As we were born, exposed with so little, but full of love.
Thanks a lot, Alejandra. It was a pleasure to talk.